XES, Why Church Girls Tend to Get It Backwards, and How to Get It Right. Authored and narrated by Joy McMillan. Chapter 1. What Door? Once upon a time in a land far, far away. Okay, stop the train, that's not true. These people live uncomfortably close by. Anyway, moving right along. There once was a young bride and groom, smitten and starry-eyed. Their wedding day had arrived, and they were, well, as happy as hounds in a hubcap factory. With vows exchanged and the standard 27 million photos taken, they kissed to the clink of every glass and danced the night away. Hearts full and feet throbbing, they were eager to launch the next chapter of their lives together. Alone, decidedly alone. Planning a wedding had been hard work, at least for one of them, and spending the day in the matrimonial spotlight, while glorious, had been even more exhausting. Providing a much-needed respite after a day of glitz and adrenaline, the promise of their bridal suite was enough to recharge their batteries through the final inning. They arrived at the hotel in the wee hours of the morning, and with great expectation hurriedly checked in and headed to the top floor. The sight that met their eyes when they opened the door, however, was beyond disappointing. Where were the fresh flowers and chocolate-covered strawberries? Where was the open floor plan and champagne on ice they had been told about? More importantly, where was that four-poster bed they had spied in the brochure that had triggered hot cheeks and winking all around? This was not what they had signed up for. Too exhausted and, well, let's face it, preoccupied with the possibility of that greatly anticipated horizontal tango, I am paraphrasing here, they decided to take it up with management in the morning. After an uncomfortable night on a lumpy pull-out sofa bed in the small, stuffy room, the new husband headed down to the manager's desk to give him a piece of his mind. A refund and explanation were in order. After listening patiently for several minutes, the desk clerk graciously asked, "Sir, did you open the door?" "Ah, yes, the door." The door? After sheepishly returning to his room in search of this mysterious door, the husband and his new bride found what they had assumed in their post-wedding fog was simply a closet door. Lo and behold, the door. They stood speechless at the extravagance that lay before them, a stunningly decorated, sprawling room boasting an array of freshly cut flowers, an overflowing fruit basket, a tray of plump chocolate-covered berries, and the most majestic four-poster bed they had ever laid their eyes on, not to mention their bodies. They had spent their wedding night in the congested, awkwardly arranged entranceway to what was actually their rightful room to enjoy. I love telling this story when I speak because, funny as it may be, it packs a punch. It's simple, and yet the message hits profoundly close to home. It paints a picture almost as ludicrous as that of a princess huddled on the doorstep of her castle, with the keys to her kingdom in her pocket. You see, there is territory that is ours for the taking, but we have to be willing to step into it. And that's where it gets tricky. If we're honest, willing to get real and raw with ourselves, in spite of the temporary discomfort, we'll recognize just how often we do this in life. In marriage, we can see ourselves right there in their wedding shoes, crammed into that little entranceway, feeling disappointed, disconnected, and completely disenchanted with how hard it's become to keep the proverbial spark alive. What is it about that door that so clearly divides the fizzle from the sizzle? Making marriage work takes effort. I'm not sure anyone would disagree with me on that. But I don't just want a marriage that works, and I think it's safe to assume you don't either. We want a marriage that is vibrant, ever-growing and deepening in intimacy, a union that bubbles with joy and purpose and life. But a marriage that great doesn't just happen. Marriage is a lot like an escalator. Unless you intentionally make an effort and do the work to move upwards, you will go down. There is no if, and, or but about it. This holy matrimony thing takes persistence, and courage, and a boatload of forgiveness. It takes 1,000 little choices every single day, choices that say unity is more important than being right. It takes intentionally placing the other one before oneself, choosing kindness, selflessness, discipline, forgiveness, and flexibility, day after day after day, and then the day after that. It takes getting up every single time you fall down or drop the ball and pressing onward. It takes surrounding yourself with the right people. It requires a hefty amount of prayer and patience. It demands extravagant grace and a whole heck of a lot of laughter. And it takes prioritizing intimacy, physical, spiritual, and emotional, and working to cultivate a vibrant, satisfying sex life. And this is where the door comes in. The hardest part of developing a Christ-centered, God-honoring marriage isn't knowing what to do. It's actually doing something with what you already know. It's much like getting healthy. We all know we have to stop eating Twinkies and cold pizza for breakfast and start moving more than we sit. But taking that head knowledge and putting some action to it, small as it may be at first, is where the change actually takes place. Knowledge without action is useless. It'll make your marriage stronger as effectively as it'll make your clothes fit better. You have got to want what's on the other side of that door enough to move beyond the comfort of the ordinary into the extraordinary. It means being willing to lay down the things we may want now, no matter how desperately we feel we need them or deserve them, to gain what we want most, an extraordinary marriage. Not that I have already obtained all this, or have already arrived at my goal, but I press on to take hold of that for which Christ took hold of me. Philippians 3:12.